We have a really robust supply chain team. And then just a culture where accountability and food safety is everyone's responsibility, not just a quality assurance director. Our goal is consistency without compromise, no matter how complex the operation is. And we do have complex operations. So as long as everyone is on the same team, one team, one dream, we get it done.
You're listening to Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork, a podcast discussing the latest trends and technologies in the food and supplements industries, brought to you by Trustwell, featuring conversations with regulatory experts, quality and safety champions, and thought leaders across the industry. I'm your host, Lydia Adams, VP of Marketing at Trustwell. If you're loving the conversation, don't forget to subscribe and stay tuned to the end of the episode where you'll hear our guests tell us their key food industry predictions for 2025. All right, let's jump right in. On today's episode of Food Tech Talk, Supply Chain Insights from Farm to Fork, we're delighted to welcome Arahmelle Tan and Airomo Russel of OTG. Ara is the Senior Vice President of Supply Chain and Logistics at OTG Management. With more than 2 decades of experience across dynamic travel and hospitality environments, Ara has led transformative initiatives in demand forecasting, distribution, and food safety. Her people-first approach and deep operational insight make her a standout leader in one of the most logistically complex sectors of the food industry. Airomo Russel, Director of Food Safety and Quality Assurance, brings over 20 years of experience, spanning public health and private industry. Her decade-long roles at NYC Department of Health and OTG shaped her expertise in regulatory compliance, risk management, and operational efficiency. Now, expanding her reach through training and storytelling, she shares practical insights to support safer, higher quality food systems driven by a deep commitment to public health and industry accountability. Welcome to the show, Ara and Airomo.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
I'm very excited for this conversation today. So let's kind of get started with some of your background and what led you guys to your careers. So, Ara, you've worked across several major food service brands. What really drew you to the airport and travel-based operations specifically?
Well, coming into the airport, prior to working to airports, I've already been working in the restaurant operations industry. This was my very first job coming into the US. I worked with HMS hosts prior to working for OTG and worked with them for 20 years. But going back to your questions, airports are a crowded crossroad where people are constantly on the move. Unlike any other food service environment, the job of a food service operator is to provide the same level of quality and service or better than any restaurant does. Just as any food service or restaurant out there, it must be planned ahead for a larger group. So also all our meals need to be satisfied to be given to travelers in a tight time schedule. It's an exciting and challenging undertaking that involves multitasking efficiency with hospitality. I love the idea of creating memorable experience for passengers and travelers at all stages in their journey, whether they're grabbing a quick bite before boarding a flight or sitting down to dine during a layover. It's all about making their trip just that little bit better.
It's a very unique part of the food industry. So I love that we're going to talk about that a little bit more. And then Airomo, as a former health department inspector, really, what drew you to airport operations from your side?
Being that I did this with the health department before, the fact that I was able to bring it on to such a complex environment, food service in an airport was so exciting. So the airport operates with the amount of speed and scrutiny and security and scale. It's a lot for the operations, and being able to interject the food safety aspect is a goldmine for myself. You're serving thousands, literally thousands of guests daily. Similar to what Ara stated, they're under tight schedules. They have to get on planes. They want to sit and dine. But going through security is that once they get through security is the very first feeling of they're going to on vacation, the guests. So being able to ensure that our guest has a full dining experience with OTG, as well as serving them safe food, is everything that I want to be a part of. So the expectation was high, and the expectation is there, but I enjoy every minute of it.
Yeah, it's kind of this universal experience we all have. I have my routine when I get to the airport. It's like, oh, get through security, and then I want to go grab a bite, right? So no, it's cool that you guys are, a part of that. And so this is kind of a question for both of you guys, but just really looking back, what are some defining moments that have shaped your leadership style, and how does that relate to serving safe food?
I'll start first. A defining moment was partway through a massive operational reorganization of the previous company. We met with considerable opposition from the crew members, from the staff who rejected any kind of change. I realized then that effective leadership isn't just making decisions. It's also about listening to your team and understanding their doubts. This experience taught me the importance of empathy and cooperation. Since then, in my work, I have been doing all I can to foster understanding within teams by building strong personal relationships with them, promoting open dialogue, giving a voice to everyone in this business.
And how about you, Arahmelle?
A defining moment was early for me while working with the health department. I started out as an inspector, doing inspections throughout the state, and then a supervisor, and then ultimately becoming an assistant director. I worked on a team that was inspecting the state. However, as an inspector, everything was just authority, not necessarily with empathy. So yes, we did inspections, and I realized that the industry wanted teachable moments, and they would listen if you explain the risk in a way to make their operation better. I realized that's really what I wanted to do. So in transitioning into with OTG, I inherited a team that was kind of weary to change. We realized that we had to be transparent. We had to figure out what the opportunities were and sharing the why behind why they had to get it done. And it built trust. And then with not only the operations team, but with the quality assurance team as well. So I led with that balance of structure and respect and getting it done, essentially.
Looking to improve your supply chain? At Trustwell, we've been connecting the dots between the food industry and data for over 40 years to give you more control and visibility across the full supply chain. Our comprehensive Food Logic platform and our new Genesis Foods set a new standard for compliance, transparency, and quality across the food industry. Request a demo today. The link is in the show notes, or visit us at trustwell.com. I think that's great advice from your experience. And you mentioned at the beginning about food safety and quality. I can only imagine that at airports, the scale of that is huge. So, how do you guys maintain that food safety and quality really across multiple airport terminals? And it's that complex supply chain that you guys are working within.
Essentially, you have to standardize the protocols. We have a standard that everyone has to adhere to. Everything from vendor sourcing for the suppliers to temperature control with the operators in terminals. We build flexibility into our systems. We have unique environments and operational overflows, and technology will play a huge role into that as well. We use like real-time monitoring systems, moving towards digital checks, and just making sure we're able to flag opportunities earlier, something that assists us with flagging opportunities earlier. That way we can take corrective actions immediately. Other than that, we prioritize ongoing training, strong vendor partnerships. We have a really robust supply chain team. And then just a culture where accountability and food safety is everyone's responsibility, not just a quality assurance director. Our goal is consistency without compromise. Not at all, no matter how complex the operation is. And we do have complex operations. So as long as everyone is on the same team, one team, one dream, we get it done.
That's really cool. That's inspiring. And you mentioned the systems and innovations. What are some examples of those that have helped you guys to maintain that consistency?
That's a good question. So one of the most impactful systems I think that we've implemented was the centralized digital food safety management platform. So it allows us to track refrigeration temps across the enterprise, temperature logs, and another one of the platforms gives us audit results in real time. So that visibility is very crucial when managing a dynamic, super fast-paced environment like airport operations. We've introduced SOPs across all locations. We have labeling for food products, both prepped and ingredients. enforcing consistency with those systems and enforcing a strong food safety culture, regular training, again, recognition for compliance, and leadership support on every level, not just from, again, quality assurance, but every level from the CEO to the barista or dishwasher in our facility.
And I can imagine just with airports, there are kind of some unique challenges for food logistics and specifically with safety and freshness. How do you guys implement those protocols, especially during transit and storage?
We do have limited storage, tight security, unpredictable traffic patterns could come up tomorrow that we have something different that we have to do, quick turnover times, and they all influence how we approach food safety. So in terms of protocol, though, the most important factor for us is that we have a transient nature of support of airport operations. The difference in types of food that we handle, the regulations from state to state, we have to be a little bit more vigilant about how food is transported and stored in the terminals, guaranteeing the consistency or consistent freshness of all of our food on every level in every restaurant or market, and as well as receiving it from the supply chain as well. That requires us to do a lot of planning and coordination with logistics to receive and our receiving teams on the ground, and just partner with them and make sure we have strict, controlled frames or times where we're receiving the product and we're transporting it to our facilities in a timely manner to control time and temperature for our products and not having any hiccups in our operation.
I'd love to go back to a concept you brought up, which is the food safety culture, and throw that question over to Era about, can you really share how OTG has built that food safety culture, especially within that dishwasher to CEO mentality, and how you guys accomplish that?
Yeah, that's right. At OTG, we have created a culture that makes food safety everyone's business, like what you said, from the dishwasher up to the senior leadership. This involves our operational teams in the development of safety procedures and encourages them to take responsibility for their jobs. We also bring our vendors along by giving them the training and resources necessary so they can live up to our standards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I'm glad you mentioned, vendors, and I had some questions about suppliers in terms of airports. So, Era, you've led transformations and demand forecasting and supplier relationships. How have these changes impacted food safety and the trust of your guests?
A better demand forecasting allows us to match our inventory to what our customers want, thereby reducing waste and ensuring that food stays fresh. Improved supplier relationships, again, have been central to our work. By working closely with suppliers, we can make clear to them that we expect in terms of quality, and they can deliver that consistently. In turn, this creates trust among our guests who know they can rely on our offering safe and quality food.
Another factor I think here is really speed. Airport food service, I'd imagine, often requires a lot of speed without compromising safety. How do you balance that with, operational efficiency, rigorous quality controls, and maintaining that same culture while you're dealing with a lot of issues with having to do it quickly?
So, yeah, navigating between speed and safety, it's an issue which demands a good deal of thought. We have designed and operated a complicated flows network that ensures production activity is efficient without being slipped. This means preparing some things ready in advance, but at the same time caring for food so as not to contaminate with it with any bacteria or any food illness. At high peak times, we make available clear procedures to guide staff in maintaining our professional standards, even under pressure.
What KPIs really guide that balance for you guys in your strategy?
Definitely. So, important KPIs include food safety compliance rates, customer satisfaction scores. We do also try to find waste reduction metrics. At least with these indicators, it helps us keep tabs on our performance and make any necessary adjustments. We also conduct regular training and refresher courses to ensure that our teams constantly follow the same safety practices as embedded as part of everything that they do.
I think an important point that both of you have made is really that this kind of starts at the top. So, Era, maybe share a little bit more, in your opinion, how supply chain professionals can really champion food safety at that executive level with planning and decision making.
The onus is on the supply chains team like us to communicate the importance of food safety to executives. This requires producing data and the right reporting that shows how safety affects customer satisfaction and brand reputation in the marketplace. Producing a boardroom quality business case for food safety ensures it remains a priority at top management level.
Have you seen this evolve or change over your years in the food industry, and how so?
Yes, definitely. There has been a definite shift in how food safety is viewed inside this industry. Instead of being merely a visible government concern, it has increasingly had to be integrated into the overall corporate strategy. As a consequence, more money has been put on food safety.
And following up on the tools and the innovations that we spoke about earlier, I know that, as a customer of Trustwell, you guys have been using some of our software like Food Logic. Can you talk about how, technology like that for the supply chain is helping your teams, or how it's important in your desire to keep food safe?
Yarma, you want to take that?
Using both Trustwell and Food Logic across the farm to market life cycles, they allow us to close the loop between food safety, quality, recalls, supply chain transparency. While each platform brings a strong standalone value, the real power is essentially how they complement each other and how they complement OTG. They help to ensure not only that the products are safe and compliant, but that we can quickly trace, report, and resolve any issues with speed and confidence. It's in a high risk, high complexity environment like the airports. These capabilities are absolutely invaluable. So working with a Trustwell absolutely assists us in our everyday food safety work life.
Airomo, what trends are you seeing and really watching in airports, or in transit food service that could influence future food safety approaches?
One of the major trends that I'm watching is the rise of automation and smart technology in the food service establishments, AI-driven inventory systems, smart labeling, automations for delivery of food items in the streets, not so much in the terminals. But as innovation grows, food safety protocols are absolutely going to need to evolve to ensure that tech-enabled convenience doesn't compromise temperature control, doesn't compromise traceability, or any kind of sanitation standards. I am also seeing the growing demand for fresh, minimally processed foods in transit. It's great for the guest experience, but it raises the stakes for integrity for those foods that are, as far as temperature control is concerned. I'm watching the sustainability initiatives as well, reducing single-use plastics and repurposing food waste regarding food safety. It's a balancing act. We want to meet the environmental goals, but while we have to maintain strict hygiene and safety procedures as well. So the tension drives a lot of innovation in packaging and processing, design and waste management, and all of that within the next couple of years. I'm kind of seeing those as trends.
What do you see as maybe some innovations or technologies that could possibly be underutilized right now in the industry? And, where do you see that innovation headed?
One that I'm thinking the industry is underutilizing are predictive analytics. We collect a lot of data, temperature logs, inspection reports, things of that nature, but the operations still use the data reactively. There are huge opportunities for leveraging these tools, anticipating supply chain disruptions, making proactive decisions based off of to prevent any issues from occurring later on down the line. I know we're definitely underusing real-time monitoring for like transit of food and storage. It's gaining ground, but many operations still rely on manual logs, manual spot checks, things of that nature, which leads huge gaps real-time sensoring provides us with like 24/7 observation of refrigeration units, which is huge. We won't have any issues as far as liability with refrigeration and foods and associated. Those are kind of some of the items that were underutilized, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'd love to hear from you, Era, as well, in terms of what your thoughts are about technology and innovation and what companies should be doing to utilize these tools.
I think we've changed through the years how we've applied food safety. But I do think, especially with the FISMA that's going to happen real soon, a lot of the companies right now are preparing for it. And I think that's a good thing. Although I know it's going to be delayed for 2026. However, given all the preparations that everybody, all the company has done, I think that has helped. We're trying to gather all the information we need to be able to track products from the start to finish. I do believe there's still a lot more that should be done. And just going back on what Airomo had said, right? The unexplored potential of AI or predictive analytics. And that's why we also partnered up with Food Logic, because I believe like the others a lot at Food Logic, this is a company that could help us get through with this untapped potential that we're talking about right now.
Agreed.
Now that we're talking about the future a lot, Arahmelle, I'd love to hear from you outside of innovation or out there for anything. What's really your food industry prediction, for the rest of the year and beyond? And where do you see the industry heading overall?
I can anticipate that the food industry will continue to accelerate and embrace the technology and sustainability with regards to food safety. I do think AI is going to become increasingly utilized to optimize essentially supply chains and inventory management. I do think we'll see stronger regulatory focus and transparency with regards to traceability as well. Overall, I believe, or I can anticipate, food safety leaders will need to be a little bit more agile, tech savvy to be able to utilize all platforms to navigate evolving food safety standards and procedures.
Can I just add to what Airomo just said about my prediction for 2025? I think a lot of what's going on in the geopolitical environment that we have right now could play a role in what's going to happen. As obviously we know that it's already affecting the food industry. And my biggest concern is I hope it doesn't affect or it would not hamper with what we're all trying to do here when it comes to food safety. That is just my biggest fear. I just hope that none of that's happening in the geopolitical scene would limit or prevent any of us from doing what we've already started when it comes to food safety. So yeah, I think we just need to keep our eyes open and constantly look for ways to come up with alternative measures that would affect availability of safe products, if for that matter. And, just continue on with what we have started, especially with preparing for this FISMA.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And, something I've just continued to hear from industry leadership is like people aren't slowing down. Companies are not slowing down with food safety. It's vitally important. It's taking that responsibility. And thank you for sharing that. And just kind of for our final question, and I'll put this out to both of you, starting with Era, is, if you really had one piece of advice for someone who is entering this industry, especially with complex supply chains, what would that be?
I would say it's important to build good relationships. I think that's for whatever industry you go in, whether you're in food service, hospitality, hotel, in any or manufacturing, I think it's always having that good relationship. In food safety, it's essential to understand the underlying principles, but really the essence of both hospitality and commerce is human relationships.
Definitely agree. And Arahmelle?
I would say keeping food safety top of mind. I am a strong proponent of food safety, and it's not just one person's job, it's everyone's job to essentially get it done. And similar to what Ara said, maintaining those relationships with all parties that will essentially assist in getting the task done is very crucial. One team, one dream. I lead with that. And our sole goal is to make sure that we serve safe food for the millions of people that are flying throughout the world that start with us at OTG. So let's just get it done. Accountability is key, and just make sure you're accountable for your actions as well as myself being accountable for mine. And together we'll get the job done.
I love it. Thank you both for joining us. This has been very educational and such great advice for our audience. And we appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for another bite-sized nugget of food tech talk, supply chain insights from farm to fork. Make sure to subscribe. And if you love the podcast, leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Music, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. To learn more about TrustWell and request your free demo of our technology platform that connects food formulation, products, nutrition analysis, and compliant labeling with traceability, recall readiness, and supply chain transparency, please visit us at www.trustwell.com and click Get Started or click the link in the show notes to learn more. Thanks for listening.